Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the pilot episode of The Bag of Holding, where I, Jacob, the nerdy Nord, will discuss with you the origins and real-life parallels of video game items and weapons. So the next time you draw your blade, you know exactly where it came from and why it's there. And when you think of iconic equipment, there are a few things that come to mind more quickly than The Legend of Zelda. These games are known for their plethora of utility belt attachments, and you'll use every one of them in some way along your journey. One of the single most iconic items Link lugs around is the legendary Hylian Shield, a shield that protects Link from blades, fire, and magic in many of his journeys. Although the Hylian Shield first appeared to gamers in Ocarina of Time, it canonically originated in Skyward Sword. The shield was given to Link by Lanayru, the Thunder Dragon, after proving his courage by defeating 8 of his past bosses without falling. This shield, unlike all others in the games, is completely indestructible and cannot be pierced by magic. Lanayru is a master of electricity and magic, having most likely designed the robots that serve him. It's possible that he forged the shield to be invulnerable and resistant to magic, but it is unknown. Next on the timeline is the Ocarina of Time, in which the shield can be found in Kakariko Graveyard in the grave of a Hyrulean royal family member, or Sheikah, as well as in the bazaar in Hyrule Castle Town Market and various chests throughout the game. But it should be noted that there are multiples. This could be a simple game design choice, or it could mean that the shields are replicated. Before I discuss its next appearances, allow me to briefly explain the Zelda Timeline. After Ocarina of Time, the timeline splits into 3 paths, one of them following the world of young Link's time after he was sent back, which includes Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, which occurs after Ganondorf was captured and put on trial. Another follows the world in which Ganon was just defeated, but from which Link is now absent, resulting in the events of Wind Waker and its sequels. And finally, there is the Decline timeline, following an alternate reality in which Link perished during the battle with Ganondorf. This catalyzes the events of most of the 2D and classic Zeldas, including the original, A Link to the Past, and A Link Between Worlds. First up is the Child timeline. In Majora's Mask, young Link carries the Hero Shield, and while not directly labeled as the Hylian Shield, it carries many similar characteristics. The Hylian Shield appears once more in Twilight Princess later on in the timeline. It should be noted that the Hero Shade in Twilight Princess, heavily hinted by Nintendo to be the Link from Ocarina of Time after he has gone to Termina and eventually perished, lacks the shield, so it is possible that Link's Hylian Shield was passed down before his death. Therefore, it is possible that the Hylian Shield in Twilight Princess is actually the original Hylian Shield from Link in Ocarina of Time. But this is just speculation. In Twilight Princess, the shield can be found in Malamart and sold by a Goron. Somehow this shield keeps ending up in shops. I guess the Hylians who inherited it thought that pawning a legendary indestructible shield was the way to go. And now we move on to the Fallen Hero timeline. In A Link to the Past, Link carries a shield with a very similar design to the Hylian Shield, despite never being labeled as such. This shield is most likely not the Hylian Shield, however. Despite having similar elements, it does predate the actual gameplay debut of the Hylian Shield, and its design is considerably more different than any other. In A Link Between Worlds, however, the Hylian Shield can be found in Turtle Rock, and its design is identical to the one in Skyward Sword. Considering this, it's possible that this Hylian Shield is the original Hylian Shield. And finally, we move on to the adult timeline. Although the Hylian Shield never appears by name or by exact design in this timeline, there is a shield called the Hero Shield in Wind Waker, which is said to have been passed down from a legendary hero. However, the design is far off from that in Ocarina of Time, and we know for a fact that Link carried the Hylian Shield back to his own timeline. So it's most likely that this shield is actually passed down from the Link in Minish Cap. This Link wielded a small shield, which is identical in design to the Hero Shield. The Hylian Shield is based on the kite shield common in Europe in the 10th to 12th centuries, named for its resemblance to early European kites. Nintendo couldn't have picked a better base for the shield, actually. Kite shields were an evolution in shields that allowed cavalry units to guard an entire flank while riding, and they were ergonomically designed to fit the natural contours of the body, while round shield offered less coverage with greater bulk. This is highly appropriate considering that the Hylian Shield debuted in the first game where Link rode horseback. The differing shape of the Hero Shield in Wind Waker and the small shield in Minish Cap are also rather appropriate. In the 14th century, limb armor had become more efficient, so shields with a great amount of coverage weren't as critical. Thus, the teardrop shape was flattened, and the shield shortened to make it easier to wield in active combat to deflect blows, forming a class of shields known as heater shields. Since the Hero Shield and Small Shield canonically appeared after the Hylian Shield, it's sensible to assume that this development reflects the historical evolution of shields. The Hylian Shield and its variants have gone under several changes throughout the games, but all hold the same two key aspects: the Triforce and the Crimson Avian. The Triforce is fairly self-explanatory, but the Avian figure is a tad more obscure. Popular theory dictates that this figure is a Crimson Loftwing, as exemplified in Skyward Sword. The Loftwings, according to Gaipora, are guardian birds and symbols of divine protection bestowed by Hylia onto the Loftians, with the Crimson Loftwing being a rare breed that was thought to have gone extinct before imprinting on Link. I couldn't think of anything more appropriate for this shield, one bestowed with protection from any manner of harm. Some people have theorized that the fourth triangle on the Ocarina of Time design insinuates the existence of a Tetraforce, as the fourth piece would fit into the center of the Triforce, and this fourth piece is missing somehow. However, Nintendo has vehemently denied the existence of the Tetraforce, and, for this reason, removed the fourth triangle from future designs. It's most likely just a pedestal for the Loftwing. The minor changes in design throughout Zelda history have a couple of explanations, one being the simple dismissal of this as purely aesthetics on part of Nintendo, but I try to avoid metagaming answers. Given the multiple shields in most of the games since Skyward Sword, the shields could simply all be distinct, with minor variations by the smith or line of smiths who forged them. Perhaps this doesn't really matter at all, but it's interesting to consider where these shields might have come from. One of the bigger changes is what's more interesting, and that is Link's Hero Shield in Majora's Mask. It clearly has the same elements of the Hylian Shield, but it appears to be inverted, the Triforce on the bottom and the Loftwing perch with its wings pointed down, enveloping the Triforce. This is a very curious design change, and I speculate that it was meant to reflect the twisted nature of Termina, the parallel universe to Hyrule in which Majora's Mask takes place. In many ways, this world is an aberrant, darker mirror of Hyrule, with many of the same inhabitants, species, and items, but all in some way different. The hunched Loftwing and inverted design was most likely intended to further reflect this parallel, and it's possible that Link's arrival in Termina twisted the image. Zelda has one of the biggest followings out there, and there are constantly theorists trying to fit together the tiny pieces to make this great legend. This one item holds a surprisingly great deal of weight and many implications in the story. It's always been one of my favorite designs and items, as you can no doubt tell, and I look forward to seeing it in future games and seeing what story it brings with it. Thank you all for watching, I really appreciate your support, and be sure to subscribe so you can see what falls out of the bag of holding on the next episode.